Hey everyone, and welcome to another video. Today I want to talk about ArcSys's biggest problem as a publisher and not a developer. The main reason I'm not going to mention them being a bad developer is because I think they make really good games. The problem is they don't know how to advertise their good games. The biggest offender of this is Guilty Gear as a series. Guilty Gear used to be ArcSys's flagship series for a really long time, all the way back in the 90s. But now, since ArcSys has started picking up more projects, Dragon Ball, Persona, BlazBlue, Under Night, the list goes on. They've slowly forgotten about a lot of the games that put them on the map, and arguably the only thing that's keeping all the other games alive that they developed is the FGC, and I'm hoping the same thing doesn't follow with Guilty Gear Strive. On that note, I want to talk about their handlement of DLCs and how I think they're by far the worst out of any fighting game developer when it comes to advertising their DLCs. Most DLC trailers made by ArcSys boil down to being a minute or 30 seconds of gameplay and cinematics. And that's really bad, because for people that don't know who those characters are, for example, Grand Blue does it, no one knows who Zoe is unless they played the mobile game. And when you expect people to buy your DLCs, you have to show them something that makes them interested in the character. The designs of the characters are fantastic, but that's not a selling point if the person that's viewing the video doesn't find the character interesting enough to warrant $5. The biggest offender of this also is Dragon Ball when it comes to its DLC trailers. The difference is almost everyone knows who those characters are. You don't need to show a lot to get someone interested in Bardock or Broly, because everyone knows who they are. And when you have certain games like Cross Tag that reuse a whole bunch of assets, when it just feels more like a less developed or in-depth BlazBlue, a lot more people aren't going to be inclined to buy that either. And that also goes into how ridiculous ArcSys expects you to spend on some of their extra non-character DLC. For example, Grand Blue is currently charging $3 for stages, which is fine, but for character colors they are charging $1 to $6. This wouldn't be a problem if it was released after the game's launch, but all of this stuff is released, or most of it was released when the game first came out, meaning this stuff was locked on the disc. You literally have to pay money to play with stuff that you should already have access to. Now, Bandai Namco is a lot more forgiving when it comes to certain stuff like this. For example, with Soul Calibur and Tekken, the DLCs are actually quite expensive, $6 to $4, but they also give you access to special stages, customization, and the character themselves. So all that stuff accumulates in it being worth it compared to some of the other stuff. But like I said, Bandai is better in some instances. For example, they have the problem of having pay-to-win characters and charging $2 for frame data. Frame data is a necessity in all fighting games, and it's ridiculous that they ask you to spend money just to see it. Now, they also don't put as much effort or money into their fighting games as someone such as Capcom or SNK. Biggest example of this being Soul Calibur. Soul Calibur 6 is the lowest budget fighting game out of the biggest ones that came out last gen. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad game, because I really enjoy Soul Calibur, but the presentation is some of the worst I think I've ever seen in a fighting game in a while. It's up there with KOF 14, and it definitely could have been better if Bandai would have gave it more of an opportunity to shine. But I understand why Bandai didn't want to risk that, because Soul Calibur 5 ended up being a flop because they ended up changing the systems too much. Now let's talk about ArcSystem's problem with not updating their games. Dragon Ball doesn't suffer from this problem because it's by far their most popular fighting game. hence why they get an update at least every 3 months. They even recently had a roadmap showcase for the coming months. Other Arc System games don't get that luxury. Cross-Tag literally almost went an entire year without getting content, and the game came out in 2018. Cross-Tag is already a bare bones game, and they pretty much gave up on it after it launched. They don't even really advertise it as is, and most of the DLC content that you see advertised is on the Japanese Arc Systems account, and this also goes into their communication with the players and the community. Arc System doesn't really communicate with a lot of the players. The Dragon Ball FighterZ teams does, but all the rest of the teams don't, and that could be because a lot of the main team members, for example Team A and Team B, Team A being the Guilty Gear team and Team B being the BlazBlue team, both don't really have any projects to work on. And since Strive got pushed back to 2021 is a good thing, because from what the beta showed, it showed that they are changing a lot more mechanics to be simplified, and I don't think anyone really has a problem with that. But if we're going by Dragon Ball FighterZ standards of simplification, the depth of the game isn't going to be as complex as the Exard series. And considering that Exard had 3 series to flesh out its systems, a lot of people have become accustomed to that. But since Strive is a soft reboot, it's understandable why they want to rehash and redo some things. But the fact that it doesn't even feel like the current modern Guilty Gear anymore, and just feels like a watered down version of it, is something that a lot of people aren't going to enjoy. And that's something that Arc System has been doing with a lot of their recent fighting games, is making them a lot more accessible to new players. And I personally don't mind that. The problem with it is that they're oversimplifying stuff. Dragon Ball, once again, being the biggest offender of this. Auto combos. Auto combos should not reward a player for mashing one button consistently, and the easy way to fix this is just by taking away tracking. And this is shown in Cross Tag, where the auto combos there don't have tracking. I think those auto combos are the perfect way to just capsulate on a system, while still appealing to new players and also making it easier for pro players. That is what auto combos should be. It shouldn't be a get a free win reward button. And I hate that about some of these games. ArcSys is also known for having an atrocious netcode for all of their games. Guilty Gear Strive is supposed to be the first ArcSystemWorks game to have rollback netcode, which gives me hope that we can finally have consistent online battles. But they're also known for not penalizing people for quitting. Arc System is the worst when it comes to this from any fighting game developer. They literally just gives you a slap on the wrist, keep playing. You don't even suffer from it, and it doesn't count as a loss or win, which is the worst thing. If someone quits before you get those last hits, or if they quit right at the end, it doesn't register you as the winner, which is something that they claim to be fixing with Dragon Ball FighterZ, but we'll just have to wait and see. And this all encapsulates into Kill la Kill If. Kill la Kill If is an anime-based arena fighter developed by A+ Games. This was actually their second game, and they did really well on it. Unlike other anime arena fighters, it actually had depth, but the thing that killed this game was the advertisement for it. The only time ArcSys actually advertised the game was on Twitter. But I'm not actually only going to blame it on ArcSys. Studio Trigger also didn't advertise the game, the anime studio that actually made the anime. But since the developers actually did put time and effort to actually do balance patches and free DLC character updates, no one really cared, because once again, it wasn't advertised. Hence why a lot of Arc System games go on sale. Most of their games that go on sale are usually dead, and they try to squeeze out the last bit of money that the game can make, which sucks for people that are really excited to play it. You don't really get the luxury of enjoying a lot of their games because they don't have any live communities keeping them alive, and the ones that do have a somewhat active community are only active in small chunks, whether it's in the same region or a different region, which makes it difficult for people to get attached to any of their games without live support. And that's the main thing that I hate about ArcSys. Unlike Capcom, say whatever you want about them, they actually did try to fix Street Fighter V, and they did a really good job at doing it. ArcSys doesn't try to fix anything. If something breaks, they just move on to the next thing. And I wish they would apply the same mentality that they have going on with Dragon Ball FighterZ to their other games. And I think with that, they could actually be a better fighting game developer, maybe even the best one.